So we have a plan and a rough sketch from our previous lesson, and we're ready to go to open up our editor and start building that out. So we're going to start with the index page, and I already created it. I saved our template as a file called temp. So you can see that within my directory here that I do have template there. So I'm going to work off of index. When I'm ready to move on to about, I'm going to open up template, save it as about, make the changes in there. So that's one of the ways that you can create multiple pages using all of this master content, where you're just simply updating that content that's contained within that container area. So let's create that content now. So the first thing that we wanted to do, according to the plan, is add a Jumbotron. And Jumbotron is fun to say, and it's also a really effective way to capture users. So it's a great thing to use on an index page where somebody might be casually coming to your web page content. So within the Jumbotron, we have an option. We can display some additional content. So let's create a div, and we'll give it a class. So this one is going to be display 3. So how about we'll try that size. And for now, let's just say hello world, because we don't really have a great message. And of course, if you were building this out in the real world, you'd make sure that every piece of content made sense and it had a purpose within your website. So this is Jumbotron example within Bootstrap 4. So there we've got a little bit of content there. And then last but not least, we want to have our call to action. So we're going to do this as a hyperlink. And with Bootstrap, we know we can transform different elements into different looking elements. So we know that if we want to transform a hyperlink into a button, this is going to be really easy to do, where we just simply add in the class, the btn class, and basically that makes it look like a button. So learn more, and we'll close that off. So let's pop open, and we're going to see what this looks like. So there's our basic introductory page, and notice that the Jumbotron is sitting outside of the container area. So this basically means we need to have another container here within the Jumbotron, because the Jumbotron by default is trying to take up more space than we want to allocate to it. So that's why it's sticking out of that area. So we need to have it more controlled. We need to bring it back into our main container area. And the other thing too, I just noticed that we don't have that div there at the end, and that's probably why it's hanging over. So there we go. So now we've got our Jumbotron, we've got our page heading, and next we want it to add in some content here. So we want to have an image, and basically what this is basic grid here. So we've got, when we look at 12 columns, so we've got 4, we've got 8, 4, 4, and 4. So we can build out our grid as well down here. So we've got the container ready to go. Let's do another container here, because this part is going to be with the grid. Let's clean that up a bit. So within here, this is where we're going to build out our basic grid structure. And we can work on a span of 4. So let's do div and class. And so what do we need first when we're starting out our grid? We need a row, so we need to define that row. And then next, we're ready to set up the column classes. So let's start out by call MD and 4, because we want it to go 4 across. And then within here is where we're going to place an image. So we need an image source, and we're just going to simply use the placeholder. So placeholder.com, and we're going to make this image fluid, so it actually doesn't matter what size the image is. So we'll just set it at a default size, and we're going to use the Bootstrap img fluid in order to make the image responsive size. So there we go. So we've got our first area there, and then the second area, so this is going to be 8. So it's going to take up all 8 columns, the remaining 8 columns. And here is where we need some text information. So again, we have an option. We can have a span, and we can do a class, and we can set the size. So let's do H3 maybe, and welcome to my website. And you can put in whatever text you want in there. So like that, and let's use HR, and then next let's do paragraph there. So this can be some lorem ipsum default text, and maybe we're just going to copy it so it looks like there's more information here. So let's go take a look and see what our website looks like now. So there we've got our text area. So we've got our home text area with the image, responsive image. And then lastly, we wanted to add another row at the bottom. And this one is just going to have a bunch of images in here. So let's set that up, clean that up a little bit, grab this, and we can just copy and paste because we've just got the 4 images. So I'm going to just clean that up again, go back out and refresh it. So there we go. So there we've got our 3 images. So all of this is sitting within the Jumbotron, and maybe let's take it out of that Jumbotron, as I just wanted the Jumbotron within that section there. So that's why we've got that kind of grayish area there. So let's distinguish it from the Jumbotron. And just looking at this, we probably need to add some padding there at the bottom. So we can do that with Bootstrap as well. So we can add in margins now with Bootstrap. So we can do something like margin bottom, and then we can set a numeric value. So let's try that out. Let's do MD3. So hopefully that adds in a little bit of a margin there at the bottom. And you can really play around with this. This is new with Bootstrap 4 as well, that we have the ability to add margins. So what I've done here is I've done margin bottom. If I wanted a margin at the top, I could do MT, and that would essentially give us a margin at the top, but I do want it at the bottom. So those are the options there. You can go margin top, margin bottom, margin left, margin right. And you've also got classes set for both, and the sizes range anywhere from 0 to 5. So you can also, besides margins, you can do padding as well. So there's a lot of information that's contained for Bootstrap for that specifically. And there's more information available at the Bootstrap website about this. So if you want to go to Bootstrap spacing, it's got all of that margin information there. So that's all I was doing there, where I was setting those margins at the bottom. So I'm going to just refresh it, and there's our margins at the bottom. So basically, that's the home page. So we're ready to go with the next part of this, and I'm actually just going to do a quick update, and I'm going to update that image. So I'm going to use lorem pixel for that images, and what I want it to do, so I want to have different images actually for each main container. So probably the best way to do that is I can add it here as style, and then I can grab that class there where I've got that image, so the header main, and then add in background image. So we're going to overwrite that one that's initially there, and we're going to simply put that URL, so like that. So that way, when we go out to the page, and this way we can have different images and URLs, and you've got some options here. So if we want to do business, I can /business, so I can get a more business-like picture. So maybe that would work better. And sometimes you do have to play around, and that's one of the downsides about lorem pixel is you don't actually have a choice of the images that are showing up. They just come in at random. So there we go. So that we've got some background images, and probably best even to make this larger. So this is an option with lorem pixel where you can actually resize your images. So that will make it a little bit more crisp and clear. So there we go. So we're ready to move on. And the other thing that I've just noticed here as well is that I can't really see this text here. So maybe a good idea might be to add a light background to it, or because the text is light, maybe add a dark background. So let's do background dark, and we're going to add that in. So that's one of the things that we don't have initially within our text. So let's see what that looks like. So refresh. So we've got our home page there, and we can also add it here as well. So let's add it down there. So there we go. So now we can actually see that, that message that we had above the image. So go ahead and take what you've learned within this lesson, build out your home page, and the next lesson we're going to be jumping into the About page. So that's coming up.